Welcome to From Caving In to Crushing It, the podcast for those who find themselves immersed in adversity and choose to write their story instead of having others write it for them. I'm Drew Durrani, and I'm your host. Jeff, good to see you.
Good to see you. It's been a minute.
It's been a minute, man, right before the record button. So it's good to see you,
Right?
pal.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
gosh.
you too.
And so whenever I do this, I always like to thank the person who introduced us. So Mike Weiner, thank you so much for the introduction to Jeff
Yes.
Pearson. You and NRG were gracious to have him on the short list of people who you thought I should meet. So thank you for that.
Yes.
You
Mike's
know,
awesome.
yeah, he is awesome. In the beginning of this, I always talk about how when we're younger, we're taught that life is linear. We're taught, and it's from our parents, our family, and it's not malicious. They want it to be that way for us.
Mhm.
And for the most part, our life is linear. It is that straight path until something happens. Ultimately, an external circumstance comes, and it happens to all of us, just a different time in our life. It gets in between one of those letters, A plus B plus C, and that straight line now becomes more circuitous route. When that happens, that's when adversity rears its ugly head. And when that happens, there could be three types of men to address that adversity. I say man number one is the man who has so many blind spots, he doesn't even notice the adversity. He lives life on autopilot. He just lives the life people told him to. He doesn't make any changes. That I certainly do not have man number one on this show. Man number two, on the other hand, sees the adversity, yet he says, I'm the victim. Life's doing it to me. He
Mhm.
blames everybody else. No accountability. He makes no changes because he figures life is what it is. It's set in stone. And he goes through life without any changes. And on his deathbed, he's got a ton of regrets. I don't have man number two on the show. I have man number three, or Jeff Pearson, on the show. Man number three sees the adversity. He's got a heightened self awareness. And he finally says, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. This adversity is not a barrier. It's an opportunity for me to do something different, take massive action, and become a stronger man on the other side. So, Jeff, for the audience, reach back as far as you need to for that defining moment, whether it was the tap on the shoulder, the whisper in the ear, or like I needed the two by four upside my head that transformed you from either man number one or two or both to the man you are today and how that impacted you personally and professionally.
Yeah, great question, man. Thank you. And I'm usually the guy that's a really tough nut to crack that needs the hammer, chisel, two by four, all the things. However, in this case with that question, I will go all the way back to the one of the first memories I have of my parents talking to me about why I was different, and they could have gone two different routes. They could have said, because I've had 15 surgeries. I've had 7 brain surgeries. I've had like we've this condition I was born with has wreaked havoc on parts of my life. It's not, I'm not going to lie. It's
Right.
been crazy the last 10 or 12 years. Thankfully, way back, probably kindergarten or something maybe, where my parents could have said, Jeff, you're sick. We need to keep you in a bubble. We need to keep you under wraps.
Right.
You need that special education plan. You're not going to learn well. You need to, all the things. They could have gone down that route and been very, very cautious and very, very, overly cautious. But what they said to me was, Jeff, you're a normal kid. Every once in a while, you've had a few surgeries. Every once in a while, you might have to have another one. Go do your thing. Okay. Yeah, you got to have brain surgery every once in a while. So please don't play soccer or football or anything that intentionally bangs your head against
Right.
things. Let's
Right.
be smart, but go live your life. So I was a skateboarding kid. I still snowboard 30 years later to this day. I love
Mm.
snowboarding.
Me too.
Tennis, sports, music, singing, band, all the things. And so that was probably that defining moment of okay, okay, cool. I don't have to worry about anything. Great. Let's do it. Let's move forward then. And that is the underlying message that I've carried with me for, you know, 48 years now is that I can do whatever I need to do, whatever I want to do because,
Right.
you know, God is my strength and I don't
Right.
have to worry about, you know, sick. I don't have to be the sick kid.
Right.
So that was probably the first time I remember hearing that.
I love that the support that you had from your parents because that's a very formative age. How old were you at that time? Do you
I'm not
remember?
even sure. I don't even remember the exact moment or the exact age or anything like that. I just remember
Right,
that was instilled in me very
right,
young.
right.
So, yeah,
So good for them to instill that because a lot of times when parents get a diagnosis for their child, they allow the child to be defined by the diagnosis. And then
yeah,
there are some parents who don't allow that to happen. They don't put the label on the child because labels mean limits.
right.
And thank God for your parents. But they did not put limits on you,
That's
and
right.
you're here today to be thriving, my friend. So as you got older, do you recall like the first time you had to have that surgery, and did that change your approach in life or what you thought about yourself?
I remember surgeries in my childhood. I remember a couple of eye surgeries I had in elementary school. I remember, and these were all because of the condition I was born with. This was
Right,
all side effects, craziness caused by it, because the condition that I was born with requires brain surgery, and so when you go poking around in the brain, you
right,
you can affect other things too.
sure.
And
And
but the
what is
first,
the condition
the
you
name of
said?
the condition is hydrocephalus. Is what I was
Okay.
born with. Is
And it's one of those
hydrocephalus. Basically,
invisible conditions we talk about that no one,
yeah,
you
loosely
have them.
translated, water on the brain.
Okay.
Basically, one of the ventricles is built into the brain. Everybody's brain is producing fluid all the time, and there's ventricles built in that drain that fluid where it's supposed to go, and just kind of a perfect system. Well, one of those ventricles was blocked for me when I
Okay.
was born, and so
Okay.
the common treatment is to do brain surgery and drill a hole in the skull and access that fluid with a shunt. And that shunt kind of drains the fluid somewhere else it's supposed to so it can reabsorb and kind of does that, does the work of what most people's brain does on its own.
Okay.
And so, yeah, so it was, um, but yeah, the first time I remember that surgery was
Yeah.
18 years old. So I
18
had
years
one
old.
at two
Okay.
weeks old. That was the first one, and then I had one at 6 months old. But the first one of those major brain surgeries was at 18 years old, right after high school graduation.
Wow.
And I mean, it laid me out for a few days, but it was not that. I mean, you're young, you're limber,
Yeah.
it didn't really affect me too much. In fact, about 8 months later, I hit the road and went and traveled the world with a music group for a year.
Wow.
So
Good for
which
you.
probably made my parents really nervous. You
I'm
just had brain
sure.
surgery and you're
I'm
heading out
sure.
around the world. But it
No
really didn't
cell
affect
phones
me.
around that time?
No. And
No, the poor parents. Oh my
we
gosh.
got stories all day long about crazy stuff that happened that year that
Oh boy.
yeah. So no cell phones, no social media, nothing, man. They
Wow.
cut me loose. I went across the country, went over to Europe. I mean, I was everywhere.
For you.
They had letters. I wrote letters.
Okay. There you go. The old-fashioned letter. Okay. I
Oh,
love
so
it.
anyway, so yeah, that was the first one I actually remember. And,
Okay.
I didn't really think much of it because of that mindset that was
Right.
instilled in me of this is surgery.
Right.
God's got you. Either you're going to wake up and see us, or you're
Mhm.
going to wake up and see Jesus.
Right.
It's all
Right.
good.
Right.
So, doctor's good. He's got you. We'll see you on the other side.
Wow.
And so that's how my attitude has been going into every surgery I've had. So,
Wow. Now, where were you born and raised?
Fort Collins, Colorado, about an hour north of Denver.
Okay. And where are
So
you now?
I am about an hour south of Denver, Colorado Springs.
Okay. So
So
when you've had subsequent brain surgeries, you've gone to the same location or a different one?
it's changed over the years. I've had four of those brain surgeries in the last 12 years. So I
Okay.
had two back to back
Wow.
within 24 hours in 2014.
Uh-huh.
That one was done in Denver. And then I had one in 2018 and one in 2021. And those last two were done in Colorado Springs.
Okay.
So,
Now,
yeah.
how prevalent is that
Condition?
diagnosis condition?
Yeah.
How prevalent?
Hydrocephalus is ridiculously common.
It is.
I
Okay.
know it's invisible, and I know you're looking at me going, "No way, he's had seven brain surgeries,"
Right.
but
Yeah.
it's
It wouldn't.
but it is very, very, very common, and it is very invisible, unless there's other crazy co-conditions with it, which sometimes happens.
Right.
But hydrocephalus itself is ridiculously common. It affects about one out of every 800 babies born in the US. So that's
Wow. Okay.
yeah. So that's like 400,000 plus babies born with it every single
Mm.
year. every 15 minutes in this country alone, somebody is going under for surgery in an OR somewhere in the country to treat hydrocephalus. It is prevalent.
Unbelievable. Okay.
So but it's invisible and there's just not a ton of funding for it. And so you
Hmm.
don't hear a lot about it.
Interesting.
So,
Wow.
but it is common.
Okay. All right. Well, it's good to know that there are caregivers and out there who can care for this
I
because
mean, there is, and they're awesome. And so, by the way, to put that in perspective, if you
please do.
have, I have what, 1,500 followers on Facebook. So if you have 1,000 followers, 1,000 friends, whatever, if you have 1,000 friends on Facebook, probably at least one or two of them has hydrocephalus.
Wow.
So
Okay. Put
think
that
about
into
that,
context. Yes,
just
absolutely. No, absolutely. Absolutely.
crazy, right?
It is. It is. So after you got back from traveling the world, now you play a musical instrument. You said you went with a band. What's
So
your music?
yeah, I mean, my wife and I actually met in seventh grade band class. That was one of the
Okay.
directions my parents sent
Ah.
me was, hey, how about not football? How about band? How about not soccer? How about choir?
I
And
love
so,
it.
so yeah, I started
Yeah.
playing clarinet in seventh grade, and man, did
Okay.
I want to quit halfway through, but they wouldn't let
Uh,
me. My mom's like, nope, you're going to finish the year.
oh
And so
boy.
I said, okay. Well, during that first year in seventh grade, I met Catherine, who played the flute, and so I got to stare at her the whole class because the band it's arranged that the clarinets are here, the
And the
flutes are
flutes
there,
are right
and
across.
so
Yep.
it was great. So finally got the courage up to introduce myself to her, and we've been, we met 12 years old in seventh grade band class, and
I love it.
we've been married 26 years now, and it's awesome. But um, yeah, so I'm sorry, I totally lost track of where we were going there.
No,
You
no,
asked me a question, I kind of got off
yeah,
track.
no,
I
because no, you
apologize.
know where I was going to go with this because I asked you about the instrument you played because you went on that
Oh,
trip and you
right.
said you were the band. Now you say you met your
So
wife.
I so
Now,
I never took the clarinet with me to travel. No, that was singing. I did get into choir in high school,
okay,
and that was what I traveled the world with. It was a group called Up with People, and it's
okay,
disbanded. So like now, like about a year ago, or
yeah.
last year or this year, but it was around for 50, 60 years. It was an
Oh,
awesome organization that traveled
okay.
around the world and spread cultural awareness and through
Wow,
like kind of a musical show. So we traveled all over, had semis of equipment following us and three tour
wow,
buses, and
that's
it
wonderful.
was awesome.
It's a shame it's not
So
around anymore.
it's not, I know you can go and you can still look it up, and like you can see there's 40, 50 years of shows
Yeah.
and legacy there that you can check it out. But
Right.
yeah, it has sadly, closed
Uh,
down. But
oh
yeah,
boy. All right.
I
Well,
know.
so now let's get back to your elementary school sweetheart, which I love. I love that because you usually hear about the high school sweetheart. Now you got the elementary school.
Yeah, middle school, right? Yeah.
Middle school, yeah,
Yeah.
middle school. I
Uh,
always mix that up. That's the
that's
middle
all right.
school. And so now, if you say so, when did she get involved the first time you had to go through a surgery? Because it was a surprise, like a shock to her system, right? You
It
having to go
was.
through that. So go
Yeah.
into that for a little bit.
It really was, man. So growing up together in junior high and high school and college and all that stuff, like she knew I had the only surgery she saw me go through was that
Mhm.
one right after senior year.
Okay.
But she was going off to college. I was, graduate. It was all kind of that hectic high
Yeah.
school graduation, getting
Right.
ready for college thing.
Hmm.
So she didn't really pay that close of attention to what was going on. She
Right.
came over to the house and said hi and visited and stuff, but
Right.
she didn't really know what was going on, really. It was not until my next surgery. So that was when I was 18 in 1995. The next surgery I had to have was in summer of 2013. So we had been married 14 years by then. We got
Okay.
married in 99,
Yep.
had three kids, bought a house, living our life, doing our jobs, whatever. And then in August of 2013, I had to have emergency surgery because of complications of some of this hydrocephalus stuff. And
Right.
bam, out of nowhere, she's in a waiting room all by herself while I'm in surgery
Um,
and calling her friends, going, I don't know what to do. What now?
yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it can be a little scary. She didn't really have a lot of warning.
Wow.
So
And
yeah,
support. Did she have any support end up in the waiting room? To some.
she did have, how it is when you say, well, if you need anything, let me know.
Yeah.
Everybody says
They
that,
mean it
right?
when
If
they
you
mean it when
hear
they say
somebody
it, but
go,
we usually don't call them on it. Yeah.
Right. Well, she started calling him on it and she started calling people and she called and called and called and found one person that said, where are you? I'm on my way.
Oh,
Her name's Pauline, and we still get together with her every week. We
that's
love
wonderful.
Pauline. She's
Wow.
amazing. And she said, that's what she said. Catherine called her and she said, I'm on my way. Where are you? What hospital are you at?
Wow.
And so she
Wow.
just sat with her and that
Sometimes
was
that's
it,
all you need,
and
right? Yeah.
yep. So
Wow. Well, obviously you came out okay. And so tell me like what you started doing professionally around, when you go off to college after you got back from going
I
further
started
up
to go to
north,
college
whatever?
right out of high school. I went to one
Yeah.
semester and then I went and traveled for a year. And that
Yeah.
year literally turned my brain inside out and
Yeah.
gave me so many amazing ideas of what I could do. And
Awesome.
so
Awesome.
I went to school for a couple more years after that, but it just wasn't me, man.
No,
I
that's
didn't know
cool.
what to
That's cool.
do.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm out. I'm out of here.
Yep.
And we got married and we got the job and did the thing, and for a long time I got laid off a lot. Like I was the
Yeah.
guy that got laid off from everything. So I've
Right. It
skipped around,
happens.
you name it.
Yeah.
I've done it for the
Right.
last, but I did find something that I absolutely loved in
Oh yeah.
2011. And for between 11 and 23,
Yeah.
I was a private investigator, process server, and armed security.
Whoa.
And yeah, talk about a
Private
fun thing,
investigator.
man.
Yeah, yeah. Let's
That's
get
a
into that.
blast.
All
I
right.
didn't wear what short shorts and I didn't wear Hawaiian shirts, and I didn't drive a Ferrari. So
Didn't do
that
any.
whole image of
Okay. All
Magnum
right.
PI, get that out of your head.
So, all right. So that vision is gone.
It's
So
more of an
what
art form of staying awake and and
I envision you
not
just sitting
crashing
in
the
a car
car,
drinking coffee, eating a piece of
right?
pizza, waiting for
Exactly.
something to happen.
Like pulling hairs out
Look
of your
at
leg to stay
you.
awake. It's
My
like, oh,
gosh.
come on.
So you really did this.
Um,
So what made you go into the private detective stuff?
it was a thing where somebody that went to church, we went to the same church. His name's
Yeah.
Eric. He's amazing.
Yeah.
He got the contract with his security company to do there was a minor league ballpark in town here,
Yeah.
and he got the security contract for it. So he said, I happened to be working security at the church at the time. He reached out to the guy that handled that. He said, who can I tap, for maybe working with me at the ballpark. And so that's how I met him. That's how I got
Great.
started.
Okay.
And then he's like, you know what, Jeff, you could probably do pretty good as a PI. Let's train you in that. You'd be pretty good serving
Private
papers. Let's train you in
investigator.
that. And
Okay.
so, 12 years later, I'm doing all that stuff. And in the midst of that, I had, four brain surgeries and two others that
Wow.
he saw me through all of
Ah,
that. And
wow.
so I
Yeah.
shout out to Eric Rupp, baby.
Absolutely, Eric.
Rupp Investigations and Security. He saw me through all of that and was
Wow.
above and beyond. So I never wanted to do any other work. I was a contractor, but I could have worked for other people, but I didn't
Yeah.
want to work with anybody else
No,
because he took care of us.
that's
It was
wonderful.
amazing. So, um,
And you did
but
that all
that
the way up to 2023, you said, right?
all the way up to 2023, I was, and my last brain surgery was in 2021, and that one basically ended that career. That brain surgery in
Oh,
2021,
did it?
I
Oh,
wasn't able to do it anymore. I kept thinking, man, I can push through, and I kept
yeah.
cutting back hours, cutting back hours. I ended up having to just leave. I couldn't do it.
Okay.
So
All right.
yeah, but
So with uh challenges like that comes silver linings. Tell
100%.
me about a silver lining that came out of you having not to be able to do the PI and security work anymore.
Silver lining of that was about 6 months before that in March, or that was a few months before that, in January or February of 2023, I had
Okay.
met somebody named Julianne Meyer,
Okay.
who was the network president of a channel on E360 TV. And I
Okay.
was at a conference and I met her, was introduced to her, and she said, well, somebody said, you got to talk to Julianne. Julianne, you got to hear this guy's story because,
Wow.
apparently somebody that's had seven brain surgeries, that's unique. So people
Nice.
like to hear
Whoa.
that. And so, right. For
Yeah.
me, it's normal life, but for some
There
people,
we go.
apparently that's a unique thing.
Yeah.
And so she's like, yeah, tell me your story. And we talked a little bit and we had a few more calls after that. And we said, well, she said, you probably do good to have a TV show. Let's see what we could do. Our
Ooh.
channel would love that. We
Yeah.
would love some content like that. So we ended up planning it and figuring out a launch day and everything. So April 4th of 2023, we launched our TV show, our first TV show
Yep.
called Invisible Condition, and we wanted it to be very we wanted it to be broad. I could have done the hydrocephalus hour, right? I could have just brought my condition into it, and
Right. Right.
because the idea of the show was people living and yet thriving despite some sort of invisible condition,
Right.
right? Some sort of medical condition you can't see.
Sure.
We knew that the hydrocephalus hour probably wouldn't last very long. Nobody would want to,
Uh,
that gets a little boring. So we opened it up to any invisible
any
condition,
invisible
which
condition. Yeah.
there's so many. I
Yeah.
mean,
Absolutely.
everything. So that's the silver lining. We launched that TV show. That's been on the air 2.5 years now. We've had
Great.
so many amazing guests. We've got almost 300 episodes out there. It's been awesome.
That's
So
wonderful. That's wonderful. What do you have other stuff you're working on in addition to the show, or is that your bread and butter?
that is our bread and butter, but
That's
we
awesome.
also have a nonprofit called Hydro with Hope, which
Okay.
which is geared towards people with the condition that I was born with,
Right.
hydrocephalus. So we
Right.
we actually published a journal called My Hydro Warrior Story to be able
Okay.
to help people navigate that
Is
condition
that like a
and all the
workbook?
craziness.
Is that a workbook stuff written
It's
workbook?
a it's a, like a fill in the blank
On
journal.
the blank
Yeah, it's
journal.
like
Okay.
a
Okay.
so when you get it, you start at the beginning and you just kind of chronicle your experience of the surgery and the hospital and your medical records and stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's very helpful when you go back to those follow-ups
Sure.
to have
Absolutely.
something in writing.
Yeah.
And then we like to, talk to families and kind of talk them off the ledge, of holy smokes, I gotta have what kind of surgery are we in for now?
Right. Right.
Um, and then so that we launched in 2022. The show we launched in 2023. Um, I mean, my wife and I both are speakers. We love to travel the country just talking about our story, talking about our experience of
Absolutely.
what this means. You talk about a shift in things, it's like there was a huge shift. We thought our life was on this trajectory, especially
Hmm.
my wife. She's got a family,
Hmm.
3 kids, loving husband,
Yeah.
house, all the things,
Yep.
and then all of a sudden surgery.
Boom.
You
Yep.
know,
Yep. Then things shifted
so
tremendously. Yeah.
yeah, it'll
So
yeah.
now so tell me about the speaking. Is you go in person across the country?
I do a lot. It depends. I've done
Okay.
some virtual stuff. I've spoken at conferences, remotely,
Yeah.
virtually.
Okay.
We've gone in person to places. We can do both. I mean, I have no problem doing both. I love going in. We love to travel, so in person
Right.
is
So it
awesome.
helps. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I love just telling our story. She tells her side, I tell my side, and I'm the one that's gone through it all, but she's gone through it too. She's the caregiver.
She's the
She's the,
caregiver, right?
you know,
Right.
the one that
Yep.
that had to watch me go through all that and
Right.
figure out what to do at home,
Right.
while I'm there. So
Well, you know what?
yeah.
How did that the later surgery impact the kids? Because that was their first recollection of dad having to go through it. So how did it
Yeah.
impact them?
So on our show, Invisible Condition, I actually had my wife and my oldest daughter, Elizabeth,
Okay.
on the show to talk
Wow.
about that because
Oh boy.
I wanted to hear her story because she
Yeah.
was about, let's see, she was born in 2003, so 2013, so she was 10,
10
10
years
and
old. Yeah.
10 or 11 when that first
Right.
emergency surgery and then 6 months later two brain surgeries and then and so she has a very vivid memory of
Right.
me writhing on the floor and being carted off in an ambulance and being in the
Oh,
hospital for 3 weeks. And
geez.
I mean, it was crazy. And so she got to tell that story on the show, and
Wow.
and with my wife, they kind of bantered back and forth
Sure.
about it. And
Sure.
so they, and all of our kids, all through all those surgeries, my youngest is the greatest, is the latest example. With the last surgery I had some crazy side effects from that too, and I would end up just on the floor sometimes. The world would just go from
Wow.
here to
Yeah.
here, and the world would turn on its side, and
Right.
I'd be on the floor. And and she was so sweet. She would just bring a pillow. I'd be in the middle of the kitchen floor. She'd just be like, "Hey, Dad, how you doing? We're gonna go eat dinner. Come join us when you can. Here's a pillow. Here you go. Love
Oh,
you. And just carry on. Like it
wow.
wasn't a catastrophe. It wasn't a big
Right.
deal.
Right.
There was just compassion. They
Oh,
learned how to, how to
Amazing.
do that. So it's been
Absolutely.
pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Wow.
So
That's
yeah.
amazing. Now, you mentioned over 300 episodes on an invisible condition. What are some of the invisible conditions that you've spoken to guests about that we in the audience may not really know much about?
Man, there's so many. We have talked about everything from really common stuff like traumatic brain injuries,
Hmm.
fibromyalgia, MS, lupus, schizophrenia,
Right.
bipolar, ADHD, uh, chronic fatigue syndrome. I mean, there's
Yeah.
there's a lot of conditions out there that are considered invisible. We've
Yep.
had some very rare things. We had somebody with a rare form of cancer that only affects 2 out of every 1,000,000 people in the US.
Wow.
So there's
Okay.
right, like
Yeah.
there's no research funding going for that.
No. No.
So there's like 500 people in the whole country that has it.
Unbelievable.
I mean, we had somebody talking about survivor's guilt, the effects of narcissistic
Hmm.
relationships, moral injury, military sexual trauma. I mean, we've covered a
All
lot of
different stuff.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not always physical stuff. Well,
Not
sometimes
always
it's
physical, but
mental. Yeah.
always invisible. Yeah.
Always invisible.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You and I talked about autism. I remember with my son that
Yes,
was
exactly.
undiagnosed.
Autism. We've
Yeah.
had that
Yeah.
covered on the show in one variety or
I'm
another with
sure.
different
I'm sure.
combinations of things. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's a it's a thing for sure.
Wow. Jeez.
Yeah.
Anything we haven't spoken to the audience about you want to shed light on?
You know, one big thing that I would love to share, thank you, by the way, for the
Yes,
opportunity.
absolutely.
We are just now relaunching something that we had previously earlier this year put together, and then other things came up that were more urgent. But
Right.
it's called Star Mastermind, and
Okay.
we as a TV host, as somebody that is a speaker that loves to engage with people on shows and bring out the story, and
Hmm.
it's just a passion of mine, and I see so many people that struggle to do well on this type of platform, on a TV platform, on a
Right.
on a on a podcast platform, on
Hmm.
a speaker stage, on
Right.
like how do you do that and do it well so that you get the best out of it and
Hmm.
the audience gets the most out of it
Sure.
and the host gets the most. And so Star Mastermind is the place you want to come to. We've learned so much. We've got recommendations on people that you can see to go help you with different things. We've got recommendations on equipment you could use to make it look better, sound
Right.
better.
Right.
You know, how do you do a TV show, or how do you be a successful guest?
Oh,
That's what it is. And so we want to we
yeah.
want to share that partly to elevate, anything we do in the future too, because
Sure.
I mean, we this is all stuff that we've helped our guests
Of
with over
course.
time.
Right. Yeah.
And so, but this will help everybody with a podcast, everybody with a
Of
TV
course.
show.
And will.
If
Yep.
people can
Hmm.
come and learn, um, let's make everything better. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah,
All right. Love that. Thank you for sharing that.
yeah.
Well, the audience certainly has captured the essence of Jeff Pearson. They're going to want to get in touch with you, my friend. So, folks, try this email address. It'd be invisiblecondition at e360tv.com. You want to get in touch with Jeff, email him there. I'll make sure that's in the show notes as well. All right. So, Jeff, I have two questions to ask you.
All
All
right.
right. First one, you're in your happy place, wherever the heck that is, and you're sitting down with 7 to 10-year-old Jeff Pearson, and you want to give him advice about life. What are you going to tell young Jeff?
Good question. I'm gonna tell Jeff probably something similar to what my parents told him. I think I would tell him, you can do anything you want, man. This is not a limiting thing. This is a superpower. You can do anything you want. You have no limits, and life does not have to be perfect to be amazing. So don't wait for it to be perfect before you do something amazing. So yeah,
Love
I think
that.
that would be the perfect thing to tell
Love it, Jeff. All right, switch hats. You're now talking with young entrepreneur, young businessman Jeff Pearson, and you
him.
want to give him some business advice. What are you going to tell him?
There's no such thing as fear, man. These people you're going to go talk to, these entrepreneurs, these celebrities, these influencers for your shows, for your speaking gigs, they put their pants on just like you do, one leg at a time, man. It's they had their defining moment when they took off too. They used to be in your shoes.
Yep.
So look for an opportunity to gain wisdom and learn from them,
Right.
because that they would probably love to impart that wisdom to you if you just ask them. You know,
Yep.
don't be intimidated. Don't be scared. It's not gonna serve you to let fear, in. Just be curious, and
Yeah.
ask questions, and don't be afraid to talk to people. So,
Love it. Well, thanks
yeah,
for that advice, Jeff.
yeah,
So, Jeff, I want to thank you for coming on. Thank you for coming into my life. Keep doing what you're doing. You're an amazing human being, my friend. And I'm so
yeah.
grateful to have you in my life.
Thank you, Drew. You too, man. This has been amazing, and I know this is not the last thing we're gonna do
No,
together. So,
absolutely.
thank you for the opportunity.
Absolutely, my friend. Everybody out there, please take care of yourselves. Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe and give us a review to help others find it. I'd like you to answer this question. Are you living the life you want to live, or are you living the life others want you to live? I'd like you to think about that for a second, because I strongly suggest you live the life you want to live. If you want to learn more about what I stand for and my services and how I'm able to help many men get out of their own way, please go to my website at www.profitcompassion.com. Feel free to also email me at drew@profitcompassion.com. I'd love to have a conversation with you. Take care of yourself and choose to write your own story instead of letting others write it for you.